Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. I've just completed a series of 4 fictional nominations for President Trump's cabinet. And I thought I'd put them together into a little podcast for you. So the first one is, I nominate my doggy for Secretary of Defense. To avoid the controversy about the current nominee for Secretary of Defense, I nominate my doggy Hachi. Let me make the case. First, he'd have a great slogan, roll over. Second, his deterrence would be compelling. For example, pee on Putin, caca on Kim Jong-un. And to demonstrate, in the confirmation hearing, he would caca on the chairman's desk. Under Hachi's leadership, there would be no nuclear threat, but he's not all bark and no bite. For example, he would send his doggy army to invade terrorist hideouts, including under hospitals. The doggies would be under strict orders to fart, pee, and poop until the terrorists fled. Not a single patient would be hurt. On the positive side, Hachi would use diplomacy, a lick here, a belly rub there. To comply with the residual DEI mandates, the NSA would consist of a Noah's Ark of animals, from hawks to doves. To mollify anti-Trumpers, Hachi would train the Donald to sit, stay, and yes, roll over. It'll be easy. Every time Trump complies, Hachi will give him a bite of McDonald's bacon cheeseburger. I rest my case. Update. In the confirmation hearing, Congress rejected Hachi. Instead, the Democrats want to put forward a donkey, the Republicans an elephant. I hope they don't poop on the chairman's desk. Anyway, that's the first of the 4 of these nominations for President Trump's cabinet. And now that was I nominate my doggy for Secretary of Defense. Now I want to turn to Scrooge for Treasury Secretary. Here is Scrooge's announcement in accepting the nomination for U.S. Treasury Secretary. I join the new Department of Government Efficiency in making the Federal Department of Education a ghost of Christmas past. Don't you think the 50 state departments of education, regional offices of education, county offices of education, district offices of education, and school boards are enough? All that bureaucracy means paperwork, marionetted teachers, and lawsuits not learning. I will give some of the savings directly to teachers. By the lawsuits, there are parents who sue all these different entities. There are districts suing counties and counties suing the state. There's a ton of lawsuits given the edublob. Anyway, higher education, I'll stop federal grants and subsidize loans to college students. All that does is enable colleges to raise the tuition. Oh, goody, the taxpayer will pay for the students. We can raise prices. I'll return the savings to the taxpayer. I will eliminate NASA. The money is better spent solving problems here on Earth. I will leave space exploration to the private sector, like SpaceX, which does it better and much cheaper. I'll return the savings to the taxpayer. Per my colleague Hachi, the nominated Secretary of Defense, I will eliminate most military bases, battleships, bombers, and so on. Today's and tomorrow's wars will be microscale, cyber, chemical, and biological. That's where I'll put money and return the savings to the taxpayer. I will replace the massive, unfair to taxpayers welfare system with the Ivy League plan. If living 2 or 3 to a dorm room, eating cafeteria food, and basic health care while living in a ghetto are good enough for Columbia and Penn students, it's good enough for welfare recipients. And that will incent welfare recipients to work. The savings will be returned to the taxpayer. I will cut most of the immigration enforcement budget. The rest will be used to build a mildly electrified fence throughout the border and an application process that requires all would-be immigrants to have a job waiting for them that can't be filled by Americans. AI-assisted screeners will review those applications with the decision made within an hour. The rest will be returned to the taxpayer. I will slash the Federal Department of Transportation. It is making life worse for anyone trying to get anywhere. Speed humps, dangerous roundabouts, and instead of building lanes to accommodate the population increase, they're reducing lanes and making more lanes toll lanes. All that will have insignificant effect on the climate, especially given that China and developing nations are building the massively more deleterious coal-fired plants, which are much less expensive than renewables. They do that to keep their populace from destitution. I will return the savings to the taxpayer. There are 300 federal sources of funding for social science research. Most of the funded studies have little or no practical value, and much of it increases societal polarization. I will order funding only of the most practical and beneficial research and return the savings to the taxpayer. I will slash the IRS budget. The reduced amount of taxes the government needs, not wants, will be paid for by a national sales tax. So no income tax cheating, my partner Marley was guilty of that, and no wasted zillions of painful hours in completing tax returns. I will return the savings from slashing the IRS's $14 billion annual budget to the taxpayer. My only fear is that the ghost of Christmas future, the leftist radicals in Congress and their trumpeter-in-chief, the mainstream media, will stop me, roasting me like a Christmas turkey. Anyway, that's Scrooge for Treasury Secretary, and now Glinda the Good Witch for Secretary of State. Given the media accusations about Trump's nominees, I have proposed some very different ones, as I mentioned. First, I proposed my doggy for Secretary of Defense. His poop army would olfactorily deter the enemy without a shot being fired. Then I nominated Scrooge as Secretary of the Treasury, who better to improve efficiency. Here we turn to Secretary of State. My nominee is Glinda, the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz. Here is her planned opening statement at her confirmation hearing. First, regarding Israel. Fixing 2,000 years of Arab-Jew enmity requires magic, so I will wave my magic wand to create New Israel, an Israel-sized sliver of land within the massive forest land north of New York City, which is home to 3 times as many Jews as Jerusalem. Any Israeli who wants to migrate to New Israel can, but in 5 years, Israel will become a Palestinian state. So with said wave of my wand, no more bombs, no more killings. Yeah, Israel is the Jews' biblical homeland, but the perfect is the enemy of the good. New Israel will be like, well, Munchkinland. My wand will vanish us out of Ukraine. 2 years, $113 billion, and a million casualties later, have yielded Ukraine at best a draw. I will, however, sprinkle pixie dust on Tin Man, No Heart Putin, and Scarecrow Zelensky, which will make them kumbaya. That will be announced by their doing a joint comedy routine. After all, before becoming president of Ukraine, Zelensky was a comedian. And you think having a fairy godmother as Secretary of State is absurd? Iran. The treaty will fly away like the wizard in his balloon. We were stupid to think that Iran will use the $50 billion, that's billion with a B, for peaceful purposes. As in Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express, all Iran's enemies will together blow up Iran's nuclear arsenal. Poof! We fairy godmothers do go poof a lot. The UN. I may just be a fairy godmother, but I'm not stupid. How could we continue to fund an organization most of whose members hate us? They hold their nose as they take our big bucks. No more. Until they treat the U.S. and our allies on the merits, the UN gets no more of our pixie dust. They can get the wicked witches flying bats for all I care. No fairy godmother would do mass deportations. Illegals deserve punishment, but a constructive one. I'll have them do community service to improve our Emerald City. I'm not completely nice. No one is. I can be tough when I need to be, so I'll build a fence along our borders that, if touched, gives just a teensy-weensy shkaki poo to stem the porosity. And newcomers who claim asylum will get an AI-centric review with a decision made faster than the wizard's, "Now go!" There's no place like home. There's no place like home. If I click my ruby slippers, will you confirm me? So that's Glinda the Good Witch for Secretary of State. And finally, Einstein for Chief of Staff. Predictably, the media is pounding on Trump's nominees, so I've created alternative ones. First, I nominated my dog as Secretary of Defense, who will send his canine army to terrorist cells to pee and poop so much that even terrorists would flee. Then it was Scrooge for Treasury Secretary, an obvious choice for cutting spending. Then there was Glinda the Good Witch for Secretary of State, who would wave her magic wand and solve even the Palestinian-Israeli war. Here, I turn to Chief of Staff. I can think of no better than Albert Einstein. Sure, he's dead, but hey, this is fiction. Here is his confirmation hearings opening remarks. The most important thing I will do is hire. As Albert Einstein, you won't be surprised that above all, I'll value intelligence, the ability to learn and solve problems. If we care about our goal of a better world, intelligence trumps experience, let alone demographics. To ensure additionally good hires, I'll have finalist candidates do simulations, for example, have them run a mock meeting. And if I've made a hiring mistake, even Einstein makes mistakes, I'll cut my losses quickly. The probability of someone who was bad in the first week becoming excellent is far smaller than my replacing him or her with my number 2 candidate. As the person who created the theory of relativity, that time varies depending on speed and location, my next most important priority will be optimizing use of time. I will plan each of the president's and cabinet members' few minutes. What will yield the greatest good for humankind? For example, meetings will be short. Parkinson's law is correct. Work expands to fill the time allotted. And the president and I will craft an agenda for each meeting that optimizes benefit to society per minute. And in the meeting, unless something more compelling arises, we will stay on that agenda and its timeline. Crisp. Everything crisp. I will use AI to assist me in determining what the president and cabinet should read and who they should meet with. I will put everyone who is overweight, smokes cigarettes or marijuana, and drinks more than modestly on a change or leave plan. Nicey-nicey alone doesn't work. Yes, we'll give praise. Yes, we'll use social proof, like weekly weigh-ins for the overweight. But a century of research finds that change is best facilitated by combining rewards and punishment. So while I can't fire the president or cabinet, any staff member that fails to make progress toward health will be terminated. Everyone knows that President Trump is difficult, but he hasn't met the likes of me, so I hope you'll confirm me. Thanks for your time. In any event, that's Einstein for Chief of Staff, and those are the 4 nominations for President Trump's cabinet. As usual, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel, and certainly would welcome you taking a look at any of my 34 books. Probably the 2 most relevant to this are Thought Experiments and Unreal, but all 34 are on Amazon. Just go there, search on my name, Marty Nemko, Nemko, and you will find more than you can stomach. So I like to end all these podcasts by saying a quote from Frank A. Clark. I love it, and we need this quote more in these times than ever in my lifetime. We find comfort among those who agree with us, growth among those who don't.